Edward Lawrence was a name whispered in hushed tones. In the heart of 19th century England, he was a beacon of mystique. Lawrence was no ordinary man, he was a seer. His pronouncements drew crowds eager to glimpse the future. They hung on his every word, desperate for a peek beyond the veil. Lawrence resided in a quiet village. He kept to himself, adding to his enigmatic aura. His home was a reflection of his craft. Strange symbols adorned the walls. Whispers spoke of late-night rituals and eerie chanting. The villagers both revered and feared him. He was a man who walked with unseen forces. His pronouncements were not mere speculation. They were chillingly accurate. His fame spread far beyond the village borders. Lawrence became synonymous with the uncanny. He was the seer of England. The summer of 1893 was unusually hot. The air hung heavy with anticipation. But something was amiss. Edward Lawrence, the man who saw all, had vanished. His disappearance was as sudden as it was inexplicable. The villagers searched high and low. They scoured the surrounding woods and fields. Their search proved futile. The seer was gone. The cottage stood empty, a silent testament to the mystery. The only clue remained, a diary, open on his desk. The diary's final entry sent chills down the spines of those who read it. It spoke of a preordained departure. "The time has come," it read. "I must go where they cannot follow." The words hung in the air like a ghostly premonition. The mystery deepened. Edward Lawrence had foreseen his own vanishing. What secrets did his diary hold? And where had he gone? The questions echoed through the village and beyond. The seer's disappearance was just the beginning. Edward Lawrence's cottage was a world apart. Nestled on the edge of the village, it stood shrouded in mystery. Ancient oak trees, their branches gnarled like arthritic fingers, formed a protective circle around the dwelling. Mist clung to the meadows, obscuring the path and adding to the air of secrecy. The cottage itself was small and unassuming. It was built of weathered stone, with a thatched roof that sagged under the weight of time. Ivy clung to the walls, its tendrils snaking up towards the chimney like grasping claws. The windows, small and paned with thick glass, were often dark. But when they did glow with the flicker of candlelight, shadows danced within, hinting at secrets best left undisturbed. Inside, the cottage was a reflection of its enigmatic inhabitant. Books on arcane subjects lined the shelves, their leather covers cracked and worn with age. Strange artifacts, gathered from far-off lands, filled every nook and cranny. The air was thick with the scent of incense and old paper. It was a space where the mundane world felt far away, replaced by an atmosphere of otherworldly knowledge. Lawrence lived a solitary life. He rarely ventured into the village, preferring the company of his books and the spirits he communed with. His only companions were the shadows that danced on the walls and the whispers of the wind that seemed to carry secrets from distant realms. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, a mixture of fear and awe in their voices. Though Lawrence kept to himself, his presence was always felt in the village. He was a constant source of both fascination and unease. Stories about the seer and his strange abilities were passed down through generations, becoming more fantastical with each telling. Some whispered of the symbols etched into the walls of his cottage. They were ancient runes, they said, imbued with a power that could summon beings from beyond the veil. Others spoke of the strange lights that emanated from his windows late at night, casting eerie shadows that danced and flickered like flames. The most persistent rumors, however, concerned the sounds that sometimes drifted from the cottage after dark. They were not the sounds of human voices, the villagers claimed, but something more primal, more unsettling. Some described it as a low, guttural chanting, as if Lawrence were conversing with entities no mortal man should dare to disturb. The villagers, for the most part, kept a respectful distance. They brought him food and supplies, leaving them on his doorstep without daring to knock. They knew that Lawrence possessed a power that could not be easily understood, and they feared what might happen if they crossed him. But beneath the fear there was also a grudging respect, for they knew that Lawrence was no charlatan. His pronouncements, though often cryptic, had an uncanny way of coming true. And so they lived with the mystery of Edward Lawrence, a constant presence on the edge of their lives, a reminder that there were forces at work in the world that defied explanation. The storm arrived suddenly, as if conjured from the depths of the earth. It was a night like any other in the village, quiet and still, until the sky turned a sickly shade of green and the wind began to howl like a banshee. The villagers huddled in their homes, shutters barred, as the storm raged outside. The wind tore through the streets, ripping branches from trees and sending roof tiles clattering to the ground. Thunder roared overhead, shaking the very foundations of the houses, and lightning split the sky with blinding flashes, illuminating the nightmarish landscape. It was on that night, as the storm reached its peak, that Edward Lawrence was last seen. One moment he was there, a shadowy figure glimpsed through his window, poring over his books as if oblivious to the chaos outside. The next, he was gone. A young boy, out braving the elements for a dare, swore he saw a blinding light erupt from the cottage, followed by an eerie silence that descended like a shroud over the village. He ran back to the safety of his home, his face white as a sheet, his words tumbling out in a torrent of fear and excitement. The villagers, though skeptical at first, could not deny the evidence of their own senses. The storm, as if exhausted from its fury, subsided as quickly as it had arrived. And when they ventured outside, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of lanterns, they found the cottage empty. The villagers approached the cottage with a mix of trepidation and morbid curiosity. The storm had abated, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The door creaked open as if beckoning them inside. There, on the table, lay the diary. It was bound in aged leather, its pages filled with spidery handwriting. The ink was faded, but the words seemed to pulsate with an energy of their own. The villagers huddled together, their breaths catching in their throats as they began to read. The diary was more than just a chronicle of Lawrence's thoughts and observations. It was a window into his mind, a glimpse into a world where the veil between reality and the supernatural was thin. The entries were a mixture of mundane details and cryptic pronouncements. There were descriptions of the changing seasons, musings on the nature of time, and strange diagrams that seemed to defy comprehension. But it was the predictions that sent shivers down their spines. Events, both great and small, were recorded with chilling accuracy. The diary spoke of wars and famines, of the rise and fall of empires, of inventions yet to be conceived. It was as if Lawrence had peered into the very fabric of time and returned with glimpses of the future. Word of the diary's existence spread like wildfire. Scholars and skeptics alike descended upon the village, eager to examine its contents. The diary became a subject of intense debate. Was it the work of a madman, filled with ramblings and coincidences? Or did it hold genuine insights into the workings of fate? The skeptics pointed to the vagueness of some of the predictions. They argued that Lawrence's words could be interpreted in countless ways. They dismissed the diary as a clever fabrication, designed to deceive the gullible. But the believers were undeterred. They saw the diary as proof of Lawrence's extraordinary abilities. They pointed to the specific details, the names and dates that matched up with historical events. How could anyone, they argued, have known such things unless they possessed a gift beyond human comprehension? The debate raged on, fueled by the diary's enigmatic contents. Each page seemed to raise more questions than it answered. What was the source of Lawrence's knowledge? Was it divine inspiration, a connection to some ancient and powerful force? Or was there a more rational explanation, one that science had yet to uncover? As the scholars delved deeper into the diary, they stumbled upon a recurring theme, a mysterious book referred to only as the Codex Veritas. Lawrence wrote of the Codex with a reverence bordering on obsession. He described it as a key, a gateway to forbidden knowledge. According to Lawrence, the Codex Veritas was an ancient manuscript hidden away for centuries. It was said to contain the secrets of time and space, the true nature of reality itself. Lawrence believed that the Codex held the answers to the universe's greatest mysteries. He wrote of his attempts to decipher the Codex's enigmatic text, of the rituals and incantations required to unlock its secrets. He hinted at a hidden dimension, a realm beyond human perception, where the laws of physics no longer applied. The scholars dismissed these passages as the ramblings of a delusional mind. They had never heard of the Codex Veritas. It was nothing more than a figment of Lawrence's imagination. But a few, their curiosity piqued, began to investigate. They scoured ancient libraries and consulted with experts in forgotten languages. They searched for any mention of the Codex, any clue that could lead them to its whereabouts. Their search, however, proved fruitless. The Codex Veritas, if it even existed, remained elusive. It was as if it were nothing more than a whisper in the wind, a tantalizing hint of something beyond human comprehension. Dr. Thomas Pembroke scoffed at the rumors. A man of science, he had no patience for superstition. The diary's predictions were mere coincidence, he argued, nothing more. Yet something about the case nagged at him. A historian by trade, Pembroke was drawn to puzzles, and Edward Lawrence's disappearance was a puzzle unlike any other. Pembroke decided to investigate. He traveled to the village, determined to separate fact from fiction. He interviewed the villagers, listened to their tales, and examined the cottage. He studied the strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols that seemed to mock his skepticism. The villagers, though wary, spoke of Lawrence with a mixture of awe and fear. They recounted the seer's pronouncements that had come true with unsettling accuracy. Pembroke listened patiently, his keen mind searching for a rational explanation. He dismissed most of the stories as folklore, the product of overactive imaginations. But a few details piqued his interest. The villagers spoke of Lawrence's obsession with a certain book, a book mentioned repeatedly in the diary, the Codex Veritas. The Codex Veritas. The name echoed in Pembroke's mind. It was a tantalizing clue, a thread that might lead him to the heart of the mystery. He returned to London, his mind abuzz with questions. He immersed himself in his research, scouring ancient texts and forgotten archives. Days turned into nights as Pembroke pursued every lead. He consulted with colleagues, experts in their fields, but none had heard of the Codex. It was as if the book were a phantom, existing only within the pages of Lawrence's diary. Frustration gnawed at Pembroke. Was he chasing a shadow, a figment of a dead man's imagination? Just when he was about to abandon his search, he stumbled upon a cryptic reference in an obscure manuscript. It was a brief mention, easily overlooked, but it was enough to rekindle his hope. The manuscript spoke of a secret society, a group of scholars who guarded forbidden knowledge. The Guardians of Veritas. They were rumored to possess a vast library, hidden somewhere beneath the bustling streets of London. A library that housed ancient texts deemed too dangerous for the uninitiated. Texts like the Codex Veritas. Pembroke's pulse quickened as he read. Could this be the key to unlocking the mystery of Edward Lawrence's disappearance? He knew he had to find this library, this repository of forbidden knowledge. But how? The manuscript provided few clues. It spoke of secret passages, of coded messages hidden in plain sight. Pembroke realized he was engaged in a game of wits against a long-dead author. He relished the challenge. He spent weeks deciphering the manuscript's riddles, his sharp mind unraveling its secrets one by one. He followed a trail of breadcrumbs, each clue leading him closer to his goal. He discovered symbols etched into the stones of ancient buildings, symbols that mirrored those found in Lawrence's cottage. Finally, after weeks of relentless pursuit, Pembroke stood before an unassuming bookshop in a forgotten corner of London. It seemed ordinary enough, but Pembroke knew better. This was no ordinary bookshop. This was the entrance to the library, the hidden sanctuary of the Guardians of Veritas. The bookshop was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and leather. A lone figure stood behind the counter, his face obscured by the shadows. He looked up as Pembroke entered, his eyes sharp and piercing. "Can I help you, sir?" the figure asked, his voice a low rasp. "I'm looking for something," Pembroke replied, his voice barely a whisper. "Something rare, something powerful." The figure chuckled, a dry, brittle sound. "We have many such treasures here, but knowledge, like any weapon, can be dangerous in the wrong hands." Pembroke knew he was being tested. He produced a small leather-bound book from his coat pocket. It was a copy of the manuscript that had led him here, the one that spoke of the Guardians and their hidden library. The figure's eyes widened slightly as he recognized the book. He gestured for Pembroke to follow him, leading him through a labyrinthine maze of bookshelves, deeper into the bowels of the shop. Finally, they reached a nondescript door concealed behind a tapestry. The figure produced a key from his robe and inserted it into the lock. The door swung open, revealing a staircase that descended into darkness. The air grew colder as they descended, the scent of dust and decay intensifying. The staircase seemed to go on forever, each step echoing in the silence. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber, its walls lined with bookshelves that stretched as far as the eye could see. A single lantern cast flickering shadows that danced across the shelves, illuminating the titles of countless volumes. It was a repository of forbidden knowledge, a testament to centuries of accumulated wisdom and secrets. The figure led Pembroke to a lectern in the center of the chamber, where a large, leather-bound book lay open. Its pages were brittle with age, the ink faded but still legible. Intricate diagrams and strange symbols filled its pages, alongside text written in a language Pembroke didn't recognize. "The Codex Veritas," the figure said, his voice filled with reverence. "The key to unlocking the universe's greatest mysteries." Pembroke's heart raced as he reached out to touch the book. It was cold beneath his fingertips, as if imbued with an energy that transcended the physical realm. Lawrence was obsessed with this book, Pembroke said, his voice barely audible above the pounding of his heart. He believed it held the key to his disappearance. The figure nodded slowly. "The Codex speaks of a hidden dimension, a realm beyond human perception, a realm where time and space are fluid, where the impossible becomes possible." Pembroke spent hours poring over the Codex, his mind struggling to grasp the concepts it contained. The book spoke of rituals and incantations, of gateways that could be opened between worlds. It was a dangerous and alluring path, one that Lawrence had clearly chosen to follow. "How did he do it?" Pembroke asked, his voice hoarse with awe. "How did Lawrence open the gateway?" The figure pointed to a passage in the book. "The Codex speaks of a convergence, a time and place where the veil between dimensions is thinnest. Lawrence must have found a way to create such a convergence." Pembroke studied the passage, his mind racing. He realized that the symbols etched into Lawrence's cottage, the ones that had baffled him before, were not merely decorative. They were an integral part of the ritual, a way of focusing and directing energy. "But why?" Pembroke asked, a sudden chill running down his spine. Why would Lawrence choose to leave this world behind? The figure's gaze was steady, his expression unreadable. "Some secrets," he said, his voice a low whisper, "are best left buried." Pembroke knew he couldn't turn back now. He had come too far, delved too deeply into the mystery. He had to know the truth, even if it meant following Lawrence into the unknown. He looked at the figure, his eyes filled with a newfound determination. "Tell me," he said, his voice firm. "Tell me how to open the gateway." The air crackled with anticipation. Pembroke, guided by the Codex and the cryptic instructions of the Guardian, gathered the necessary elements for the ritual. Strange herbs and powders, their scents both alluring and repulsive, filled the chamber. He drew chalk symbols on the stone floor, mirroring those from Lawrence's cottage. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The silence of the library pressed in, broken only by the rhythmic beating of Pembroke's heart. He began to chant, the words ancient and powerful, echoing in the vast chamber. The air shimmered and the symbols on the floor began to glow. A low hum vibrated through the room, growing louder with each passing moment. Pembroke felt a pull on his very being, a sensation of being drawn towards something both terrifying and exhilarating. He pressed on, his voice gaining strength, his resolve unwavering. He was determined to see this through, to follow in Lawrence's footsteps, no matter the cost. The world dissolved into a blinding white light. Pembroke, his senses overwhelmed, staggered back. When he could see again, he found himself in a landscape unlike anything he had ever imagined. The sky swirled with impossible colors, hues that had no name in human language. Strange, luminescent plants swayed around him, their forms shifting and changing like phantoms. In the distance, he saw structures that defied the laws of physics, towers that spiraled into the ever-changing sky. Time seemed to flow differently here, ebbing and flowing like the tide. Moments stretched into eons, only to collapse back into the blink of an eye. The air vibrated with an unseen energy, a palpable hum that resonated deep within Pembroke's bones. He was both terrified and exhilarated. This was a place of wonder, of infinite possibility, but it was also a place of great danger, where the familiar laws of nature no longer applied. A figure materialized out of the swirling colors, a man with kind eyes and a timeless face. Edward Lawrence stood before him. But this was not the Lawrence of the village, the reclusive scholar. This was Lawrence transformed, ageless, and radiating a profound serenity. "You came," Lawrence said, his voice a melodic echo in Pembroke's mind. "I knew you would." Pembroke, still struggling to comprehend the reality before him, stammered, "This place, it's incredible. Why? Why did you leave everything behind?" Lawrence smiled sadly. "This world, it chose me. I am a bridge, you see, between your reality and this one. The beings here, they showed me the truth of the universe, the interconnectedness of all things." He gestured to the swirling landscape. "They showed me the future, not as a fixed point, but as a tapestry of infinite possibilities, ever-changing, ever-flowing." Pembroke listened, his skepticism giving way to awe. This was beyond anything he had ever believed possible. And yet, here he was, standing in a realm beyond human comprehension, face to face with a man who had unlocked its secrets. "Why me?" Pembroke finally asked, his voice hushed with wonder. "Why bring me here?" Lawrence turned, his gaze fixed on the ever-shifting horizon. "This place, this knowledge. It is a double-edged sword, Pembroke. To know the future is to risk despair, to see the patterns, but be powerless to change them." He placed a hand on Pembroke's shoulder, his touch firm yet strangely comforting. "You have a choice to make, my friend. You can return to your world, forget what you have seen here, and live out your days in blissful ignorance. Or," Lawrence continued, his voice barely a whisper, "you can carry this knowledge with you. You can share it with the world, carefully, cautiously, and hope that humanity is ready for what it holds." Pembroke felt the weight of the decision settling upon him. He looked out at the impossible beauty of the dimension, at the secrets it held, and felt a thrill course through him. But he also saw the potential for chaos, for misunderstanding, for the very fabric of reality to unravel. "What will you do, Pembroke?" Lawrence asked, his voice echoing in the vastness. "The choice, ultimately, is yours." Pembroke returned to his world a changed man. The impossible landscape of the hidden dimension lingered in his memory, a constant reminder of the vastness beyond human comprehension. He kept his promise to Lawrence, sharing the knowledge gleaned from the Codex Veritas cautiously, selectively. He published his findings under a pseudonym, shrouding the truth in layers of symbolism and allegory, accessible only to those who knew how to seek it. The world marveled at his insights, unaware of the source of his inspiration. The village where Lawrence once resided became a place of quiet pilgrimage, a place where the veil between worlds felt thin. People whispered tales of the vanished seer, his legend growing with each passing year. And what of Edward Lawrence? He remained in the hidden dimension, a guardian of its secrets, a bridge between realities. His diary, carefully preserved, became a treasured artifact, a testament to the enduring power of curiosity and the boundless mysteries that lie just beyond the grasp of human understanding. His story, a blend of fact and legend, served as a beacon for those who dared to look beyond the veil, a reminder that the universe is a far stranger and more wondrous place than we could ever imagine.